Hello everybody, my name's Nika, and welcome back to the unboxing, where today, we're about to do something that's been pretty long awaited. Not just by me, because, for the past couple weeks I've been busy with school, and also sick, and as such I haven't been able to open up any toys for like 3 weeks straight, even though I've been receiving them. No. This is also because this figure has been anticipated for a long time. This figure has been anticipated since, I want to say, 2011, 2012? I don't know exactly. At least a decade from this figure's release, so at least since 2015, though I'm pretty sure it's been earlier. This figure, prototypes of this figure have been shown off at Tamashii Nation's events. They used the old engineering style of S.H.Figuarts, which were kind of weird and thin and lanky and kind of shitty, but they've existed all the way back then. But this figure just never came out, despite it being based on one of the most popular properties that Bandai just outright owns, and one of the most popular characters in said franchise. However, it's finally here. Released in Japan around November-December 2025, released in American markets, domestically seemingly around February of 2026, January 2026, February, in that nebulous zone between January and February, we finally can take a look at the S.H.Figuarts Char Aznable from Mobile Suit Gundam. That's right, the main antagonist, kind of the original Mobile Suit Gundam, who went on to have a whole life of his own, essentially. Whether it be being a protagonist, a side character, another antagonist again, but like more main antagonisty this time. Char Aznable is legitimately probably just one of the most impactful science fiction / science fantasy characters of all time. And it's crazy that he hasn't gotten an S.H.Figuarts. He's gotten figures in or even really any figure in 1/12 scale. He's gotten figures in 1/6 scale thanks to Hot Toys, Madhouse, or I forget the name of the company, but there was a 1/16 scale version of Char Aznable that came with a line of a bunch of other generic Gundam soldiers from the Federation and from Zeon, but never in 1/12 scale, which is the main thing I collect. Until now. And I don't know, it seems worth the wait. But without further ado, let's take a look at this box. It is very sleek and nice, aping almost in the direction of like the Berserk figures, with it leaning on a tall, thin aesthetic rather than being widened out. You get this nice black that transitions into Char's red, which is perfect for his color scheme. A little stripe of gold here in the corner and here under the window, as well as white text, and a nice velvety red background. Upon which, we have our window, which allows us to see the figure and his expression parts, as well as the S.H.Figuarts quote here on the side. We can see it's a Bandai Namco product. And then we get, right here in the front, a promotional image of the Char Aznable figure, as well as his name, as well as that he's from Mobile Suit Gundam. Here's the original Mobile Suit Gundam as well. His name in Japanese, the S.H.Figuarts, Tamashii Nation's Bandai, and Tamashii Nation's seal of quality. All looks nice. At the top, for a nice real quick look, we have Mobile Suit Gundam Char Aznable, as well as the Zeon logo in white, all on a black background. Simple, but very nice. On the bottom, we get a kind of watery look, which does fit the Newtype vibes. S.H.Figuarts, Mobile Suit Gundam, Char Aznable, and here in the corner we have the wonderful "Blame this on the misfortune of your birth" image. Play the clip.
Hey Garma, do you read me? Blame this on the misfortune of your birth. What?
Anyways, yeah, it's wonderful. On this side, we get a redded out sort of image of him looking like cheeky and coy. Again, it's probably another screenshot from the series. I think it's probably like it's probably the one from like the opening episodes where like he's observing and like we first meet Char, whatever. Zeonic logo, gold stripe, Mobile Suit Gundam, Char Aznable, S.H.Figuarts. On this side, we get a image of him crouching downward, Mobile Suit Gundam, Char Aznable, S.H.Figuarts. And on the back, we get all of the usual stuff that goes on the back. Mobile Suit Gundam Char Aznable, a promotional image of him standing, showing off him with his posability, as well as his different faces. Simple sound, heroic action. Here's an image of him sitting down on this nice sort of like velvet, which is so nice. And down here you get all your usual legalese, both in Japanese, as well as on top of that, for the American release, in English. This is for ages 15 and up. This is also from Mobile Suit Gundam, and it has that logo that shows up on original Mobile Suit Gundam merch. Product may be different from photo because these are prototype images. Whoa, we're adults who can understand that a promotional image is going to be a little bit different from the final production release. It's fine, it's livable. That's the box, which is so beautiful and elegant. But without further ado, I think we should get this thing unboxed. On the side, There's a little bit of tape. Sorry it's bellowing out. I imagine that might also be from the fact I waited a couple weeks to open this. Anyways, let's open it up. The inside, the little backing is a back layer, so we'll get there later. But first, let's slide out the figure. And whoo boy, this is everything that he comes with. And it could be more, theoretically, but also I don't really know how it could be more other than including like an entire pilot setup. Behind him, for the sake of the accessories, he comes with an instruction booklet, which is really just an instructional piece of paper, which shows you where things could deform because they're a little bit rubbery, how to play with the toy, and like raise and lower things, how to attach the gun to the waist, how to swap out faces and horns and stuff and hands. But yeah, here is the main figure with everything that it comes with. So let's get it out of that box. There we go. Yeah, first off, he comes with a bunch of fucking hands. Looking at it, it's 2 full pairs as well as 3 individualized hands for different sides. So I guess we'll start with the individualized hands. We have one that's for the right side that sort of has this really interesting pose. Let's get zoomed in on that. Obviously, they're gloves, so there's like no nail detailing, but they are very nicely detailed, all things considered. They're not too much, but I do think it works. It has a nice wrinklage to it, and this is a really distinct, interesting pose. I forget exactly where it gets used. Is this for the holding? No. Yeah, I think this might be for the holding of the chin, actually. Huh. But yeah, it has this posed hand, which is greatly appreciated. Then we have this outsplayed open hand for the left hand. This does feel very Char-esque. Just reaching out for something, I don't know, Lala or Amuro or whatever. It does feel very nice and expressive. I do kind of wish we had a pair, but whatever. Then finally for the individualized hands, we have... This isn't a trigger finger hand, but like they have it's like a very unique pose. It almost feels like he's holding a teacup, even though he doesn't come with one. I imagine maybe, I think there's a split, so if you have a teacup, you could probably fit that in there, like maybe from the S.H.F. Momotoros. But yeah, it's another interesting pose that I think you can just use like to put around his chin or whatever, to show he's thinking, or for something like that. I think it's cool, it works. We have these, which are our trigger finger hands. Again, sculpted very nicely. They have some nice wrinklage, but these are mainly for holding one of our other accessories. Then we have some plain open hands. Fairly relaxed, somewhat choppy, so he can almost like salute if he needs to, which I feel like makes sense for him as a militaristic character. Yeah, very nice white color. I like it a lot. Then to go with those hands, he comes with his long rifle. It's in a very nice metallic, like bluish purple. Let me get behind there. A very nice metallic bluish sort of purplish color. I like how it really sparkles, and it has that unique, it's a very like late 70s, early 80s sort of simplicity, but the shaping is done impeccably, and it just feels like a very funny rifle. And on the side, you can see there's a little hole on this side so that it can be pegged onto the figure, which we will do once we get the figure out. Next up, I'm going to look at the faces. So on his face currently is sort of a neutral frown, but then you also get this smirking face. And I mean, yeah, these do a good job of getting that original sort of 70s style for the faces. Clearly, we aren't getting those classic eye looks because all of his eyes are covered up by the visor. I wouldn't have it any other way. But yeah, we got a little bit of that blonde poking in. There's a little bit of paint slop on mine, but that's alright. It's not super noticeable. And the smirk is very subtle, but it's very nice. I like the little bit of white painted in there, and the little bit of lining it gets. It makes it feel like it pops very nicely. Then next up, very characteristic of Char, we have a grinning, laughing face. Again, very Char. This is specifically pointed out to be, again, for the misfortune of your birth shot. But it's just very expressional, very fitting for Char as a character. A little bit of gray paint slop, I could probably scrape that off if I need to, though. But yeah, very nice, very subtle, but very good. Next up, we have a much more expressionistic sort of grimace. A little bit of teeth showing. Again, I really like how they're showing teeth in this figure. But yeah, again, a lot more of the usual Char stuff. But yeah, this sort of like O face, for lack of a better term, because he's hitting like Nirvana or whatever, specifically because of one final accessory. He's got a Newtype sparkle. This is an alternate horn piece for the helmet, which we'll get to, but it includes this little blue sparkle because he's a Newtype, and he's activating his Newtype abilities or whatever, accidentally or whatever. And this is very fitting for Char. I think this is a very simple but necessary piece. And it's done very well. The white and the somewhat whitish blue are made distinct in color. I like the sparkles on the blue in comparison to the much flatter white. It's just very nice. And it plugs in via the back on this little peg. You can see that. But yeah, that's all of his accessories, and they are fairly nice. I kind of wish there was an unmasked head and face. But otherwise, I do feel like this fits for a Char for this general price point. Maybe he's a little expensive with the amount of stuff you get, but we'll have to determine that with the figure itself. Now, it's time to take a look at the figure itself, which we will take out slowly and subtly. Surprisingly, outside of this little bit of plastic that's around the head, there's no real plastic around the figure's like joints themselves, which is very interesting, but I do like how he looks. I wonder if there could be a little bit of shading that goes on the red, but I mean, also it does kind of emulate that classic 70s anime look of looking a little bit plain and cheap, because it's very much plastic on plastic colors mostly, outside of a little bit of paint, which is very exquisite. But yeah, he does look like Char. I do like how he looks. It's very, very exquisite, very good. And yeah, let's get a closer look at our Char Aznable. Moving up to the head, obviously he has that iconic sort of Darth Vader-y, I imagine it comes from like World War II and like the Germans or whatever, I don't know exactly. But this sort of flared out helmet, obviously done up in white with that iconic two sort of three-pronged horn on the head. It's always very cool to see. I do love this general shape, and I do kind of love how it gets transposed onto the Sazabi in Char's counterattack, but under that, the visor does fit in very nicely with the flareage. We get a little bit more of that hair, which is very oddly sparkly. Yeah, it's an interestingly sparkly hair color, but I'm not against it. I do feel like it fits that sort of blonde, and there's a little bit of like a little bit of the helmet poking out there as well, because it's the strap for the visor, which is nice to see. These are also sharp, so be careful. They might break, they might bend, so be careful. And then we have the neck, which is a normal neck, which then goes down to the sort of collar, whatever, which is very nicely picked out. I think that paint was done exceptionally well. It's very nice, very detailed, and it just looks so cool. It might come out of alignment, so be careful when you're posing, but it looks so nice. Then we get the sort of shawl, cloak thing that's very much core to Char's aesthetic. He has the pauldrons. This is all rubbery, by the way, for those of you who are wondering, so that's why I said be careful to make sure this doesn't warp. As a rubber piece, it does make sense. It gets the unique folds and ridges and shapes that one would want from this piece while still having a nice rigid shape, while still being flexible, I guess. It does resist a little bit, but it's not as like hardy as like, say, Zoro's skirt from the Raiden Nagashima version. And yeah, it's also very nicely painted. The gold does shine very well. It's surprisingly thick, and the black doesn't really shine through at all, and obviously the pauldrons are also a very nice gold. It's just very cleanly painted and patterned. There might be a little bit of paint slop, but it's not very noticeable from a glance, so that's fine. And even still, the sculpting of the red shirt underneath has some nice ridges and some nice like pectoral detail that you can notice, as well as like this zipper here, that helps it feel like a nice detailed like piece. Moving down, we've got our plain white belt, which is very emblematic of Char. On this side, we get the this or whatever. On this side, we get a movable, like, holster thing. It's a little hook right now, but, as I said before, you take the little blaster, you plug it into the peg. It seems small, so be careful not to break this also, and you can just kind of have them there. And it can also move forward for the sake of sort of doing holster shots. Very cool, very awesome. We'll get more to the articulation there later. But yeah, and then we have the skirt. Again, very nicely done. It's two pieces, somewhat like a Power Rangers Lightning Collection girl figure, so it can ridge out like that. But it has that nice sculpted in like clothing bits, which I always appreciate. And they honestly capture the shadows and light very well. The legs are fairly plain. They seem a little thin and bowing a little bit, but they aren't that bad, and obviously it feels fairly emblematic of the general classic Gundam aesthetic. And there's also just some nice wrinklage, again, which again captures the light fairly well. I imagine someone might have a little bit of fun, especially since this is a Gundam product, taking a little bit of weathering, taking a little bit of extra paint, and putting a little bit of extra work into this. Also, the knees are a little bit shinier than the matter texture of the plastic. It's a little bit more noticeable on camera than it is in real life, but it's not the worst. And obviously, in that nice white, again, we have the gloves and the boots. Very nicely done. I like the shaping of the arms. Again, they have that nice bicepy sculpting, as well as a bit more of that clothing wrinklage. And the gloves still retain that wrinklage while having that nice point of blue. It's simple, but it's very nice. Oddly enough, he does feel a little bit awkward to get into a static sort of pose, I guess just because of the specific way the legs are shaped. But that might just be because this is a figure that probably benefits from a little bit of expressiveness in your posing, like doing a little bit of this. Giving him a little bit of that sort of S-curve. Yeah, that feels a little bit better. Yeah. I'm bad at this, but yeah. That gives him a little bit more expressiveness. So yeah, keep that in mind. But as I was saying, we gotta mess around with the posability, which from what I've seen is actually kind of good. So ball joint at dumbbell joint, I should say, at the top of the neck, ball joint at the bottom, which allows him to have a nice range, so he's able to look up that far, though the back of the head does limit it. Downward that far, which is actually fairly nice. You get a full swivel, though can be careful of getting that out of arrangement. And he has some nice side-to-side tilt. Shoulders, again, are going to be a little bit limited by the plasticky overlay, though not that much. They have your usual swivel, which is able to go forward that far before hitting the overlay, and go back about that far naturally before the overlay stops it. And outward, actually dang far. Actually really far. It gets out of the way very nicely. I wouldn't recommend keeping it like this because it does deform the rubbery bits a lot, but it does do that. And also, comes with a butterfly, which gets in very nicely as well. Oh my god, actually, what the hell. But yeah, there's also a bicep swivel, a double jointed elbow, which is nicely appreciated, and your usual S.H.Figuarts wrist peg. So it has swivels, tilt up and down or side to side, depending on how you have it oriented. Also, thanks to the butterfly, the shoulders can shift up and down depending on how far you need it to go, so that's nice. Or make it look natural under the layer. Torso has a joint here and a joint here, and there's a shifting up and down to help it get more range around the skirt. So let's shift it up so that we can get the full range. The upper joint can go that far to the side, that far to the side. Not super far forward, a little bit back, but alongside this, the top doesn't swivel, but the bottom does swivel, so that's nice. There's a little bit of swivelage in the ball joint at the top, though not a ton. But with the back, you're able to go with that. Oh, I almost popped the ball. I did pop the ball joint off. Give me a sec. There you go. Be careful not to pop it off that far without the extension, and then extending it forward. You get that far. Oh my goodness. You get forward actually a lot. I guess this is for the sitting pose. Be careful, because the ball joint will probably pop off on you if you're a little bit rigorous, but you can also easily pop it back on. This is awesome. I love this. It's a little fussy. Obviously, it's popping off a little bit, but I honestly find that to be fine. That's a fine compromise. Because just using it naturally, you're able to get a lot of range. So, like, you can see, you can go that far forward. Obviously, you got swivels. And you get really good tilts. This is a wonderful jointage system that I think more figures should use. And it's insane that we're giving this to Char fucking Aznable. But anyways, there are also drop-down hips, which go very far. Mainly because the skirt is there. This is actually insane. Girl figures should be doing this that have skirts. What the fuck? He kicks forward about that far. The skirt does get in the way a little bit. Obviously, you don't want to leave it in that pose. He kicks back that far. He kicks out that far. Thanks to the split in the skirt, that doesn't really get in the way. Though, obviously, you don't want to leave it in those poses too long because it'll deform the skirt. You might need some hot water. There is a thigh swivel, which is a fairly obvious cut, though, again, it's often hidden by the skirt. You get a double jointed knee, which goes all the way, actually. What the hell? What the fuck? Why is this hand candy? You get a swivel, not at the boot cut, but you get a... Actually, you don't really get much swivel there, but you do get your usual tilts, which is fairly good. I kind of wish it was a little better. Forward and backward, as well as a toe bend. And actually, also, I forgot to note it specifically. We kind of went over it before. The holster has a ball joint there and a swivel there. So it can go out and go up. And also back, I guess. Yeah, like, actually, Char Aznable is a very well-designed figure, and honestly makes it feel worth that decade-long wait for this figure. Because I assure you, that original Char Aznable was not this well-engineered. Not due to anything wrong with the designers of the time, but just because of the technology of the time not being up to modern snuff. But this is, like, they got their Cinco de Mayo engineers probably to get on this. This is where the price for this figure is coming in, because it's like $100. It's very expensive, but it is a very... a little bit hard to get standing. But, like, legitimately, it's one of the best figures I've picked up all year. It poses so surprisingly well. And it's just really good. I don't know what to tell you. It's really good. It's just good. It's a wonder... I mean, for one, it's Char Aznable. He's an amazing character, with an amazing character design. But then you give it the accessories that you need outside of maybe an unmasked head, and also you give it just some of the best articulated engineering that Bandai can fucking offer. Every figure should honestly be like this, but this is just so good. I have to recommend it. And I mean, this is just one of those sci-fi characters that, like, you should acknowledge. I know a lot of people might not, but he's awesome. This will pair perfectly with any Char-themed model kits you might have, and it'll just stand well on the shelf on its own. I hope we get an Amuro Ray to go with it. I really hope. This figure seems to be... The main excuse for this figure seems to be the fact that S.H.Figuarts also did a G-Quux line, the recent Char anime, and that series is fine, but God, do I want an Amuro Ray now to go with this Char Aznable. I don't know what to tell you other than pick up Char. He deserves it. He's such a cool character. And also watch Gundam. Just watch Gundam. But yeah, that's the video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, leave a like on the video so that I know I should do more videos like this one. Leave a comment about what you think about this figure, about this video, about Char Aznable, about Gundam. Whatever you feel like, leave it in the comments below. If you want to see more videos, I do have some Gundam content on the channel already, and I have plans to do a good bit more. Hint, hint, I have a Master Grade Char Zaku 2 in the backlog that I've got to make a video on now because of this figure. But yeah, I've got a Master Grade Char Zaku 2. If you guys want to see that, let me know in the comments. But yeah, for whenever that video comes out, be sure to subscribe so that you have that video in your notifications, in your subscription box, and you know about it right as it comes out. But yeah, that's the video. I hope you enjoyed, and until next time, I'll see you all around. Bye-bye!